What up, everybody? Since the beginning of Power Book Force, a crossover that a lot of Power fans have been waiting for is for 2-Bit to show up in Chicago with Tommy. And with this being the final season of Force, I think there's a good chance that we could see 2-Bit making an appearance. Keeping in mind that Force showrunner Gary Lennon did tease the return of an OG Power character in Force Season 3. In Power, 2-Bit was one of Tommy's primeras who had control over Tommy and Ghost, old territory, Southside Jamaica, Queens. So 2-Bit and Tommy already shared that bond of growing up in the same neighborhood. Ghost and Tommy handed the Southside drug operation over to the RSKs when they leveled up in the game. And after the death of Rolla, Kanan wanted his old territory back when he got out of prison and killed Q-Dubs for it, leaving him in charge of the South Side. And Kanan gave the South Side to Dre to run. And 2-Bit originally started out as Dre's number 2 and eventually took over the South Side working for Tommy. And either 2-Bit and Tommy didn't always see eye to eye, with 2-Bit complaining about some of the capers that Tommy had them doing and bumping heads with Keisha when she falsely accused him of stealing product. When Tommy left New York, the two were on good terms after 2-Bit found out that Spanky snitched and gave Tommy the drop, betraying his best friend in day one to stay loyal to the street code. And the last thing that Tommy told 2-Bit was, "We straight 2-Bit, you keep your head up in there." So with that said, when we're talking about Tommy and 2-Bit connecting and potentially why they haven't connected so far since Tommy's been in Chicago, keep in mind the last time Tommy talked to 2-Bit, 2-Bit was locked up and looking at doing some serious time. So we don't know for sure if Tommy knows that 2-Bit is even out of jail. And also, soon after 2-Bit got out of jail, Tommy returned to New York and faked his death. So it's almost guaranteed that 2-Bit thinks that Tommy's dead. But with that said, we already know that sometime at the beginning of Season 3 of Force, Tommy will make a trip back to New York when it gets to the point in the Force timeline when Kate goes back to New York to pack her things to move to Chicago, and she gets the letter from Diana pretending to be Nonay with Tasha's address, leading to Tommy returning to New York when him and Tasha hash things out. But one thing to keep in mind about when Tommy and Tasha hash things out is at that point in time, JP was still alive because Tommy told Tasha that he has a brother and a nephew now. And with JP expected to die in Season 3 of Force, we know that we'll see Tommy go back to New York before that takes place. Either though we don't know how much of Tommy's trip will be shown on Force, but we do know that Tommy was in New York overnight at this point in time because he talked to Tariq the next day outside of Noma's warehouse. So the question has been, what else did Tommy do when he was in New York at this point in time? And who else did he connect with other than Tariq and Tasha? And if this takes place before things go left with Tommy and CBI, Tommy could have potentially reached out to 2-Bit while he was in New York as a way to expand CBI business to New York. Because if Tommy was going to trust anybody in New York to know that he's still alive, it would probably be 2-Bit. Just for the fact he knows 2-Bit isn't going to break the code of the street and talk to the police about anything. It's like what Spanky said about 2-Bit when Spanky snitched. He said that 2-Bit's a real G. And even though Tommy might not have known right away that 2-Bit was out of jail, there's been enough time that's passed at this point in time where Tommy might have looked up 2-Bit's case online and found out that he's been released. But also keep in mind at this point in time, when Tommy came back to New York to kill Tasha, 2-Bit played a key role in the storyline as he got a letter from Sax that had Tasha's Witsec location on it and gave it to Tariq in exchange for his Porsche. But keep in mind that the Tejadas also knew that Tommy was alive after they had to help Tariq deal with him at the end of Season 1 of Ghost. And that's why they knew they could give the letter to Kate and Tommy would end up getting it. But in regards to the Tejadas, there's also been a lot of speculation if 2-Bit knew the Tejadas, specifically talking about Kane, seeing how well known Kane was around town, and he knew just about everybody. Keeping in mind him and Zion knew each other. And with that said, with 2-Bit being from Southside Jamaica, Queens, and Kane being from Hollis, Queens, we got to believe that Kane and 2-Bit are at least familiar with each other like Kane and Zion was. So 2-Bit could potentially make an appearance early in Season 3 if Tommy connects with 2-Bit when he's back in New York to expand CBI business into New York. Because even after Tommy went back to Chicago, we know at that point within the next month or two that 2-Bit was still in Queens, keeping in mind that Tariq stole his car back from 2-Bit at the beginning of Season 4. And that was the last time we saw 2-Bit on screen in the Power universe. When this took place, 2-Bit was eating at a restaurant called Vegan Korean Barbecue, and Braden asked Tariq if he thought it was a front. Keeping in mind that they already had a restaurant as a front going all the way back to when Dre was first introduced in Season 2 of OG Power. And a lot like Tommy, 2-Bit's one character that isn't going to be looking to go legit. He's going to be in the game one way or another. So since we know that JP was still alive when Tommy goes back to New York, he was probably still also on good terms with CBI and the Coalition at that point in time also. But we also know that Tommy's going to have a fallout with CBI, and there's going to be gang wars taking place in the streets of Chicago. And because we know that Tommy will likely be calling Tariq for backup in Season 3, he could also end up calling 2-Bit, especially if they had already connected when Tommy went back to New York. One of the teasers also shows Diamond talking to Jannard, most likely after Tommy splits with CBI, and Diamond telling Jannard that they have no idea who could be having his back right now. This could definitely be a clue that Tommy called New York for backup, and there's more people coming with Tommy than they thought that there would be. And in regards to Tariq and 2-Bit, either though they've gone back and forth since 2-Bit's been out of jail, now that Tariq's taken over Noma's distro and has a massive quota that he has to meet, he'll definitely be looking to expand into new territory. Because of that, Tariq's going to reach out to who he knows who's in the game and promise to make them more money if they connect with him. And one of the people Tariq could reach out to could be 2-Bit. Because either though they have history, 2-Bit has also saved Tariq's life before. And if he's getting money with Tariq, 2-Bit would be a good enforcer for Tariq to have on his team. And if that takes place, maybe when Tommy calls Tariq, Tariq brings 2-Bit to Chicago with him to help Tommy. But whether it's connecting with Tariq or Tommy, I definitely think there's a good chance that we'll see 2-Bit in Force Season 3. Because he's had so few scenes since the spin-offs have began, we got to believe that they have plans for his character at some point. Otherwise, they could have just left his character in prison. And there you have it. Leave your thoughts, theories, and predictions in the comments.